So I'm just going to go through onto my applications, and we're going to go through to our system tools and then fire up the virtual machine manager. I need to then authenticate, so I can just use sudo for this. We can see virtual machines that I have at the moment, but say we want to go through and install Ubuntu 16.04. So I can then just go through and new virtual machine. We can then install from a local CD-ROM image, and we're going to look at installing from a local CD-ROM image, and we're going to browse through then to our ISO file, and here we're going to use then the server ISO. In this video we're looking at a manual install, but we look at how we can use Kickstart and pre-seed files to automate the install. Now, being 16.04, it's not being detected as an operating system, so I can just go through and choose then to say that this is Linux, and then we can give it a rough idea. So we'll say that it's Vivid Varvard, but we just don't have 16.04 in here. So we can go through, don't need too much, so I can actually go through and just set, say, 512 meg of RAM. We can set, let's say, for probably even a 6 gig drive is going to be more than enough, to be honest. And we can go forward onto this and then give it a name. So we'll just call it, say, 16-04. We'll customize before the install. I'm just going to move down through to my network card here, and I'm going to set just a custom MAC address. So this way I can control then the IP address that it's going to receive. So I'm going to set this up then and apply. Obviously we don't need to go through and change this, but it does make it easy for me to be able to connect into the virtual machine, because I've already set a reservation for this MAC address with an IP address. So we can now go through and begin our install. And we're going to see that if you've installed other versions of Ubuntu, this is going to be pretty similar. So we can go into install the server. I'm going to choose English and then a UK locale. I don't need to go and detect my keyboard layout, I'll just choose it from the list here. So we can leave the host name as it is, Ubuntu, and let's go through and continue. I'm going to leave the full name and obviously just set up a username to log in. So I'm just going to use Tux as my ordinary user, and we can then go through and set the password. We can set this in clear text as well, so show password in clear, but we have to enter the password twice anyway, so there's no real need to show the password there. I won't be encrypting the hard drive. It's got then my time zone, it's picked that up from the network, so that is correct. I can continue. So we're going to use then the guided partitioning, and we'll stick with using LVMs. At least I can increase the size of a logical volume later if I need to. And we can see then the disk that we're going to use, using a KVM or Xen based machine, then is going to show as VDA rather than the normal SDA that you might be used to. We've got to make sure that we accept the changes and write those partitioning changes through to disk. And we can see then the space that we can use, and again we'll accept these partitioning changes. So we're installing the basic system at the moment, but then we're going to be asked what services we want to install. So with the basic system set up from the DVD, we can now go through and look at installing additional software. So it wants to know if I want to set up an HTTP proxy, which I don't need to, I've got a direct connection. So we can then go through and retrieve the definition of what's stored in the apt repositories. So I'm not going to use automatic updates. And now we're running task cell. So this is a command task cell. And we see we've got the standard system utilities already selected. But I'm going to make sure that I select then the open SSH server, so I can remote into the machine, which is going to be quite normal, I would suggest, in most installs of Linux servers. So we also need to install the grub2 bootloader, so we can install this into our MBR. So that's the installation complete. Now we're ready to run through our reboot, so we can continue. So with the machine rebooted, then I should be able to log in as my Tux user, and then if I use then the password that we set during the installation, we can see then we're up and running on the system. If I go through and just use the IP address show command, we can then go through and see then the IP address that has been assigned through to this system. I should be able to then remote into that machine via SSH.